Welcome to the Peter Stevens Motorcycles Vic MX Recap Show, presented by Motocred. Peter Stevens Motorcycles have been supporting grassroots racing for 50 years and continue to do so with the Peter Stevens Victorian Motocross Championship. Peter Stevens have over 6 locations with Ringwood and Dandenong in the southeast of Melbourne, Geelong and Adelaide, along with the new stores. PS are now in Perth and Western Sydney. Stocking all major apparel and parts brands, manufacturers and more, Peter Stevens, everything for the ride. Presented by Motocred, Motocred have over 600 products to suit your bike, from tools, stands, foot pegs, levers, and everything else to bling out your dirt bike. To view the range, visit www.motocred.com.au. In the last couple of weeks, we've lost 2 titans of Australian motocross. On the 27th of April, one of Australia's most beloved motocross racers, Joel Evans, passed away following a crash at round 3 of the 2025 Penrite Pro MX Championship in Gilman, South Australia. During his time in the sport, Joel has epitomised what it means to be a privateer, chasing his dreams with unbridled enthusiasm and making the most of every moment. He will forever be remembered by all who cross paths with him for his kindness, his passion for the sport, and his enormous smile. On Sunday morning, we also received news that Lorraine McDonald, known affectionately throughout the motocross community as Mrs. Mac, had passed away at the age of 66. Mrs. Mac was a selfless volunteer who dedicated more than 45 years to Victorian and Australian motocross, introducing, implementing, or overseeing many of the practices that today shape our sport. She had a reputation for kindness, selflessness, and being tough but fair, and her legacy will no doubt live on in Australian motocross for decades to come. This podcast is dedicated to Joel Evans and Mrs. Mac.
My name's Cooper Danaher, and you're listening to the Peter Stevens Vic MX Recap Show.
There were times I was lost, dark had fear, couldn't see through the rain. In the end it were clear, hit the fan, I was more than one man. Who was there to lend a hand, together we'd stand. Always had my back, my guardian soldier. Team pulled together, united we conquer. Blessed is he who in the name of charity carry me when I'm weak, straight through the valley of darkness. Pitch blackness, the heartless, regardless, fear couldn't part us. Thick and thin, there by my side. At times we collide, but in the end we ride. Thick and thin, there by my side. At times we collide, but in the end we ride. We ride, 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 ride. Holding strong, united we stand, divided we fall. Together we belong. I am my brother's keeper. Keep on holding strong, united we stand, divided we fall. Together we belong. I am my brother's keeper. I am my brother's keeper. I am my brother's keeper.
Hey there, Moto fans. Welcome back to another episode of the Peter Stevens Vic MX Show, presented by Motocred. On behalf of Mental for Moto, I'm your host, Pete Wolf. Well, we've just wrapped up round 2 of the Senior Victorian Motocross Championship at Traralgon. Joining me now on the line to talk all about it, he's a Peter Stevens sales executive, a Yamaha brand ambassador, and one of the riders who raced the event. Good to have you back on the pod, Dean Mosig.
Thanks, Pete. Yeah, always a pleasure to come and have a bit of a chin wag. Yeah.
It's always good to have you on, mate. It's been a little while.
It has. Yeah, it has. Everybody's sort of busy doing everything we're doing and stuff like that. But, yeah, I definitely wanted to jump on and have a look at this one with you.
Yeah, you've looks like you've been doing quite a bit at PS. I think you had a Triumph come and try day just recently, and looks like there's been lots happening. Yeah,
there's always lots happening. It's always go, go, go. But yeah, the Triumph bike is off the ground, and Triumph himself actually hosted that day at City MX, which to my understanding went pretty good. I was a little bit too sore from Traralgon on the Saturday to go and attend that one. But yeah, there's always lots happening, man. It's definitely a good space to be in.
Yeah, I had a chance to ride one of them a couple of weeks ago, just the 250, and it actually feels in the chassis and the way it rides a lot like a Yamaha 250. But the power delivery is very different. But, yeah, good bike. Very easy to ride.
Yeah, easy to ride is probably the best way I could explain it as well. Easy to ride, fun to ride, planted, predictable, good chassis, good platform. Yeah, the 450 release I did at Ride Park, the national media release was a fun day. And yeah, they've done really well with that bike. Obviously, guys like RC and Ivan Tedesco and all the other guys behind it, you know, they're no amateurs by any means when it comes to setting up a bike. So no, they've done their homework, man. It's a good thing.
Yeah, it kind of blows me away that they've got such a good platform straight out of the box, because you don't see that too often.
No, correct. Yeah, especially a first-time attempt for a manufacturer.
Yeah.
You know, Triumph have been a company for 120 years, and this is their first dirt bike. So, yeah, power to them, man.
Now, hopefully they can keep it going. So, well, it's obviously a Vic MX podcast. So, yeah, how was your weekend?
Oh, a bit of a rough one, Pete. Yeah, bit of a rough one. I sort of, I think my headspace was probably not the best coming into the round. I, you know, probably like a lot of other people, I was really rattled by the death of Joel Evans. I didn't know Joel personally that well. I'd spoken to him a handful of times, interacted with him a couple of times, you know, on socials and things like that. But, yeah, just the way that happened, and obviously just my sadness for, you know, I've got a lot of mutual friends with Joel and things like that. And the circumstances in which it happened, you know, I just was really rocked by that. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday last week, I was really sort of down and out. And obviously, you know, with the news of Michaela, his partner, being pregnant and stuff like that, you know, with me sort of being in a father role myself now and things like that, that sort of really just really rattled me. So yeah, I think I woke up on the morning, Saturday morning, and I was unsure about if I even wanted to race or not, you know, which isn't really traditionally like me. I'm normally pretty excited to get up and go, but yeah, it's just, I think the day just sort of followed suit after that. I've got a bit of a pretty nasty groin injury that I've been sort of managing for a few months now. And yeah, just in one of the long ruts, just caught the foot, you know, and naturally when you dab the foot, the front wheel pulls down to the ground, and just had a silly crash in qualifying, and then had the same crash in the first moto, and just really flared up that groin tear.
Yeah.
To the point where it was just really uncomfortable for me to even sit down on the bike. So that sort of wrapped my day up for me there. I sort of knew that I wasn't in a state to try and push and fight the track, especially with the conditions of the track. It was, as everybody saw, really technical, really, really rough, you know, square edge, long rut sort of conditions. So definitely not the sort of state you want to be in if you've got to apply yourself to a track like that. Yeah. Yeah. So I don't know. I think I'm sort of at a point now where I can cop it on the chin and go, hey, today's not my day. You know, I've got a family to go home to, and you know, that just seemed like a bigger priority for me on that day, in the wake of everything that I was feeling. So yeah, happy to get out there relatively safe.
Yeah.
And you know, hopefully get some recovery. And I see a physio once a week, and I've got another specialist that I see as well. So I'm, you know, balls deep in the rehab side of things. You know, hopefully be better for Horsham. But yeah, it's just one of those days, Pete. You can't win them all, can you?
No, you can't. And you got to be in tune with, you know, where your mind's at, and obviously where your body's at when you're racing at this level. And like you said, the track formed up really rough, and it wasn't the type of track that you want to be racing when everything's not firing as it should be.
Yeah, that's it. That's it. Yeah, the mental component is one thing, and the physical component obviously too. But yeah, like I said, I wasn't like close with Joel or anything. But yeah, just I always, you know, I watched his YouTube content religiously. You know, I felt like he was like very relatable to a lot of guys like us. You know, and just his, you know, unapologetic drive and passion to just chase his dream and live it, and you know, doing it tough as a privateer, and doing the miles in the van, and you know, him and his girlfriend going to each round and living out of the van. And I genuinely really enjoyed watching his story and his content. And you know, I was always clapping for him at the races because he was relatable and just a really nice dude. You know, I went away to America with Luke Reardon last year, who's, you know, pretty much his best friend, and he obviously always really spoke really high of Joel and things like that. So yeah, that just sort of rocked me in a way that I actually didn't expect it to. You know, not that you don't expect those things to have an effect on you, but I guess the depth that really rattled me, you
weren't expecting.
Yeah, yep, I really wasn't. And I think the whole family side of things, is what struck me. You know, the news of Michaela being pregnant and stuff like that. That just that actually kind of made me consider if I even wanted to race at all on the Saturday. To be honest, man, it was a bit of a weird one. But yeah, I think we'll all move forward and remember Joel's legacy, and you know, carry on his name, and you know, continue to do what he loves, because that's what he did.
I think when you think of the privateer, like Joel epitomised what that stands for. Like he was someone that just loved the sport, was passionate about it, was able to achieve things at the privateer level that, you know, most privateers would aspire to. And like you said, he was just a genuine nice bloke that had time for everyone. Like I got to shoot photos for Joel a few times last year, but this year he asked me to shoot for his YouTube channel. So the last couple of rounds, I got to know him a little bit better, and you know, chat to him in the pits. And you know, I think the Joel that you see on the YouTube channel, that's who he was. Like, you really get a sense of that he's a genuine,
just authenticity.
Loving. But I think as well, there was definitely a private component to him that he was almost a little bit shy, that you don't get a sense of that on the YouTube channel. But yeah, just, I mean, it goes without saying the effect that incident has had on the moto community, and the outpouring of love and support has been, as much as we'd obviously love to still have Joel around, I think it's been really heartwarming to see the community come together for Michaela and their unborn child at this stage. So, you know, the amount of money that's been raised and that, it really is testament to the motocross community standing together and standing up for their own.
Yeah, and that was the thing. And I think that was, you know, a lot of the feelings I think I was feeling too, was a lot of it was like secondhand sadness too for everyone else. You know, everyone else sort of over the course of the week sharing their stories and their impact, you know, from him and all that. You know, I got to a point on, like, you know, Tuesday, Wednesday, I'm like, man, I got to stop going on social media. It's killing me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, you know, but obviously just wanted to honour everyone else's, you know, sadness and stuff too. But yeah, there was a lot of secondhand sadness that I was sort of feeling, obviously just for the people touched and affected by him, but just the sport as a whole, man, you know, the series as a whole, and ultimately whatever implications are going to come from this. Yeah, just my heart hurts for the sport in a massive way. And yeah, like I said, we're carrying a bit of an injury coming in, and then obviously, you know, flaring that right up pretty much straight away. Yeah, I just saw it as a sign to not do anything stupid, man, and just get home safe. And yeah, that was the way the day ended for me, man.
No, I can understand. I struggled that week after Gilman as well, and I had to stay off social media pretty much most of the week because, yeah, it was just, it was all a bit too raw. And a massive credit to the MVMX committee for getting the counsellors out there on the weekend as well, because I think there was a lot of people, you know, that were struggling, and it gave people someone to talk to as well. And it's nice to see like a committee recognise that as well and put in place sort of strategies for people to be able to deal with it. Yeah,
100%, man. Yeah, it's a strange sort of silver lining feeling when, you know, on the other end, it's heartwarming to see everybody come together and unite and, you know, embrace each other and things like that. But ultimately, yeah, we sort of still wish that the circumstances never happened at all, you know.
Oh, for sure. No, yeah. For sure, 100%. All right, well, we'll might as well have a chat about the racing on the weekend. We'll just start off with the track. You've already sort of mentioned how rough it got. I've done quite a few laps around Traralgon. I'm sure you've done many more than me. I've never quite seen it shape up that rough. What do you attribute that to how rough it got on the weekend? Was it the level of riders that we had there? Was it the way it was prepped, or a bit of a combination?
I think all the above. Yeah, I've done 1,000 laps around Traralgon, and generally at a Gippy or a club day or something like that, relatively sandy. It gets sort of like, it banks up a little bit rather than fully ruts out. Spoke to a couple of the guys on the track crew, and they mentioned that get on it until sort of Thursday afternoon, Friday, because it was so wet.
Yeah.
And there were sort of parts of the track, especially as you go up the back, you know, towards the top into that big bowl left-hander, you know, where the water was sort of bleeding out of the ground as the day went on. You know, like that that part of the track actually got wetter as the day went on because the water was bleeding through and coming up out of the ground. So obviously there was a lot of riders, a lot of 450s. 450s generally tend to wreck the track.
Yeah, for sure.
And obviously I just think sometimes when you build new jumps and when you build new things, I think they need a certain amount of time to really settle. And for me, the way that some of the jumps broke down, like the up ramps and stuff, to me, it just felt like the jumps hadn't had enough time to settle and really sort of pack in. There was that little double section at the top. And, that up ramp was completely blown away. By the day's end, there were sort of foot peg deep ruts up that. And a couple of the other jump faces and up ramps, you could tell that they'd been built but hadn't really settled, I think, which is understandable. They're running on a certain timeline and limited help and all of the above. So it's nothing the track crew do an amazing job with what they do. But yeah, I think that probably played a role.
Yep.
The changes to the track maybe weren't fully settled as such. In terms of the rest of the track, like the ruts and stuff like that, I've seen Traralgon do that before. It does have a hard base.
It does, yeah.
And once the sand breaks away, it is a kind of hard base. And that was another thing that I struggled with. I raced Rosebud the week before and ran the paddle tire. And then throughout the week, I'd spoken to people and they said, look, it's going to be deep. So I decided to run the paddle, which was good in practice because it was deep and, relatively, soft still. And towards the end of Moto 1, once that hard base sort of started coming up, the paddle was just not a good choice. And ultimately, after I had that crash in the first moto and I was pretty sore and sorry, when I went out in second moto, it was even harder again to track. And for me, a paddle tire just did not feel good at all, So that was probably played against me as well. But yeah, that was the thing, that what was a sandy sort of loamy track in qualifying became a more hard pack technical rutted track by the time the second moto came around. And that is track, it does have that hard base. So it'd be interesting to see how it does shape up at the Pro Max. No doubt it'll be treacherous, So yeah, I actually, it's funny because I generally enjoy riding a track like that. It's just, I struggle to race it.
Yes.
If we had gone, say that was a practice day and the track was like that and there was, only a handful of people there, I would have loved it. In having to slow it down a bit and think and ride a bit more technical and stuff like that. But trying to race it was challenging. And obviously they mixed the vet expert class with the clubman. So we had 30 odd riders in our gate too. So there was there was a lot to navigate. I didn't have a great start in the first moto, and trying to work my way through some of the clubman guys was a bit challenging. And then ultimately, I think I crashed because I wasn't riding the pace that I normally ride. So yeah, there was a lot of other things going on in terms of being able to just race that track for sure.
Yeah, you mentioned some of the changes. So as everyone knows, we've got a Pro Max coming up there later on in May. And one of the most obvious changes, I think, was they widened the track up, which from what I could see definitely increased the speed of the track as well compared to what Traralgon's typically like. So, once those elite guys were out there, it was fast. Like it was a really, really fast track. In terms of the dirt, like Sunday, I know you didn't race on the Sunday. Sundays seemed to stay a little bit loamier, so I don't know whether they ripped it a bit deeper on Saturday night or just, having the bikes have turned it over and rutted it up and then ripping it again. It stayed loamier on Sunday, which is what I sort of expected to see more on Saturday. But, and it didn't rut up quite as deep and get that hard base that we saw on Saturday. So I think Saturday was definitely the rougher of the 2 days. In terms of some of the other changes that you sort of mentioned, you've got that double section and that on-off. What are your thoughts on them? I've sort of got a bit of an opinion. Obviously, I didn't race the track. I was just watching on the sidelines. But, what were your thoughts on some of those newer obstacles?
Towards the end of the day on the first day, that on-off actually became a little dangerous, I felt. And same thing, it's just because of how it broke away so badly.
Yep.
It was very square-edged. It was very kind of knuckled out. And same as those doubles. If they had a hold firm it would have been, and obviously with the exception of some ruts in them, it's not slot car racing, it's motocross, but just to the extent that they sort of broke down, I just felt like it was not, I don't want to say unsafe, but really, really, really challenging. There was a couple of people who had some moments on those step-on.
Oh, there was lots of riders that had moments on that on-off. Yep.
Yeah, and there was, you had to sort of find the sweet spot. The guys that were going out to the left, when you hopped on, there was a big hole from everyone landing and then powering off. And then the actual little down ramp sort of knuckle was really cupped out as well. And it was a weird kind of obstacle for a motocross track. It was more of a sort of supercross obstacle for the most part. But again, any given day, I love that sort of stuff, man. Doubles, step on, step off. The sort of more techie, jumpy sort of stuff is what I like. But I think it was just, to me, it just felt like it hadn't had enough time to pack in and settle, and that's why it broke down so violently.
Yeah, I almost feel like, because I totally agree, it's a strange obstacle for a motocross track. I feel like that one, the way it's built, even the shape of it, it's kind of missed the mark. I think it'd be great on a junior track, but it almost, to me, looked like it was too small for the big bikes, for the 250s and 450s. They sort of had to slow down so they didn't jump too far. Because it broke down, they're gassing off the up ramp, they're gassing on the top of it. It got super chewed out. Like, it almost, to me, it almost needed, like, especially the tabletop section, needed to be a lot bigger, and that might have so it flows better. You know what I mean?
And whether or not they built them as an attempt to slow the track down, that's kind of more what I felt. You could only go so fast through that section, even when they were, even in qualifying when they were nice.
Yeah.
You couldn't launch the first one and vice versa. You had to land on the down ramp for the second one, otherwise you'd miss the turn. So whether or not those jumps were an attempt to slow it down a little bit, and then obviously you go right around the next turn, and that tabletop after that was tiny.
Yes, yeah.
Real small, but again, it could be to slow it down. I mean, because like I said, it was high speed.
Yep.
The Traralgon was always high speed, but with the exception of it being a bit wider and that, it was faster. That could have been the approach, man. I'm not sure.
Yeah. Beyond that, I thought the track was. I wasn't a fan of that obstacle, but beyond that, I thought the track was amazing. Like, I thought it was prepped really, really well. I like the fact that it's a little bit wider. I think Mark Hancock made some changes on the Sunday to the first corner and that initial part of the start straight, which were definitely a big improvement, and just allowed that first corner to flow a little bit better, and made it a lot, like, not that it was unsafe on the Saturday, but it's made it a lot safer again. So I thought the track raced really well, and from the way it's laid out on the hill, in front, I think it's fantastic for spectators. I cannot wait to see a Pro MX there. I think it's going to be an epic weekend when that big show comes to town.
Yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to getting down there. I think I think Yuriv Konski made a few points, riders briefing on the Saturday, just about things that he thought were not too safe. And that first corner was one of them. It wasn't like, as you come out of the gates, you turn left, and then that sort of sweeping right, just how close that ski jump was to that, and someone blew wide. So if that was the change they made, I'm pleased to hear that, because I think Yuriv was spot on. And that's realistically, it's part and parcel with them running a state title before a national, and it is to air out some of the flaws. So that's great, if they've taken on advice and acted accordingly, and ultimately are going to make the track safer for the nationals, then the state title served its purpose. And I thought it was good that Yuriv brought that up in riders briefing. There was another thing that was a little bit debatable. As you come before the big straight coming back down the hill, before you go left and onto the main straight, there was an inside-outside roller, and the inside part was really, really steep. It sort of looks like it had an opportunity for people to be landed on.
Oh, okay.
So, I sort of was hoping they might fix that too, because, again, the nationals will be full on and guys will be going, wire to wire.
Yep.
Yeah. So, it's good that they've used and listened to people's advice and constructive criticism to make the track safer for the Nationals.
Yeah, I think the trend of using like those dirt mounds now to contain races on the track, and we saw a few of them on the outside of that first corner, and I think that was primarily what Mark and Jared changed. So they had the water barrier on the inside, which was pushed right back, which was great. Then that sort of was not an issue. But then on Sunday, they modified those dirt mounds on the outside. They pushed them back. They made them parallel to the track as opposed to sort of across the track. So if anyone ran off, it was almost like a little bit of a bank or a berm or a wall on the outside rather than like a giant speed hump. So, it was a lot better. And I think, like you sort of mentioned, the Pro MX is a different animal again when you've got 30 to 40 elite level races on the gate that are all pushing for that whole shot and none of them are letting off. You've got to make sure that if someone does push wide or spill over, that it's not going to be catastrophic when they run wide, which is obviously you've got to prioritise, I think, safety there over the track limit and keeping people within the track limit. I think the safety aspect has to be bigger than that.
We've got to remember that this stuff doesn't just happen on our level. Like, I'm not sure if you've seen, but Tim Geisers crashed at the MXGP 2 weeks ago.
Yep.
He was literally, he ran wide out on the track and there was this big mound, of whatever it was. It looked like he hit a brick wall and, completely just spat him off and could potentially have ended his season, So these sort of things happen even on a world scale, the MXGP stuff, So, yeah, I think we don't need to undercredit the efforts that MV go to make our track safer. I think they do a great job, yeah.
No, I totally agree. And like I said, it flowed so much better on the Sunday and there was absolutely no issues with that. So, a testament to those guys for having the foresight and the initiative to actually make changes as they see them sort of arise, as they see those issues arise.
No, agreed, man. Agreed.
All right, well, you touched on it a little bit earlier, but we might as well start off with your class. I'm not going to cover all the results. I sort of said this at the last VIX podcast. If you want to see the results, get on Speed Hive. We're going to just sort of cover the key talking points and some real standouts over the weekend. But in the expert vets, man, Ali Kent, Ray Cole, Al Lewis, like that level for a vet class is just unbelievable.
Yeah, it's hard to call it a vet class, really, isn't it? Like, and like Ray and Ali and that, they're still at the pointy end of the A grade class too. Take away your Jed Beatons and all the real Pro MX guys, and they're the next group. So it makes it hard lining up against those guys. I can only imagine when you're underprepared and not totally in the right mindset. It's good though. It's brought a whole nother level of competitiveness to that class. Every year that they've ran that class, it just seems to have gotten more and more stacked. Yep. I think they brought that 30 plus expert class in I think 2021 they brought it back. Man, I finished on the podium that year. I thought, this is awesome. It's good being in the vets now. 2021 was the year I turned 30. I'm like, fuck, this is nice, And, oh, man, gone are those days. Yeah. Top 10 is a tough ask now, But it's great for the sport, man, because that class has filled up and, more sort of A-grade dudes that have turned 30. It's appealing to race that class because, you're not getting lapped by Jed Beaton and Kyle Webster. You do get to ride your own race and still be, competitive.
Yep.
Without getting totally demoralised in A grade. That's what turns people away, man. I think I had a chat with Al Lewis about this where, we've seen, especially of the last sort of maybe even 10 years, you see a lot of guys come through the ranks and they go from juniors, they go through B grade, they get to A grade, they get totally demoralised and then they just quit because it's not fun anymore. You know what I mean? And that's where I think this 30 plus, expert class is perfect for guys like myself, even, man, who have, been around a while, but, not as good as we used to be kind of thing. And The bodies are a bit worse for wear, and life is busy with families and careers and all that kind of sort of rock up and still know that we can be relatively competitive and still have the integrity of having really, really good riders in the class too.
Yeah. And I think once you get that age too, the difference between lining up against, a bunch of 18, 19, 20-year-olds in A grade, there is still an element of recklessness at that young age, because you've got a sense of invincibility. So I think for the vet guys, especially the 30 plus, 40 plus and 50 plus now, it's great to have them all split up. It's almost like still very high level, but gentleman's racing. Like you all know that you want to get up healthy the next morning and not be too banged up. So, it brings out the best, I think, and it gives riders like yourself and these guys a platform to keep racing. It's unreal.
Yep. It is, and it's funny you say that. So I raced the week before. I raced the Sand Masters at Rosebud, and they split all the vet classes into 3 classes. So they did a 30 plus, a 40 plus, and a 50 plus. But what they did, the 40s and the 50s raced together.
Yes.
And then they actually mixed 30 plus with MX2.
Oh wow!
So we're on the same gate as MX2, and I really noticed that, obviously being on a 450 in the sand, I had good starts all day and I sort of started at the front. And, man, some of the young MX2 kids, man, it's like their life depended on a race finish.
Yeah.
I'm like, man, the Rosebud Clubbies, I sort of kept them honest for the first half of the race before I sort of threw the anchor out. But, man, some of those MX2-year-old guys, I had a kid yell and scream at me after the race, and this kid was 17. Right. I'm not kidding, Pete. I'm not kidding. I came in, I was pretty chuffed. I was like, I beat half the MX2 boys. I've still got it, kind of thing. And kid comes roaring past me, yelling and screaming, and you cut me off, and rah yelling and screaming. And I'm like, bro, I didn't even know you were behind me. I think my actual words were bro, chill. This is a Rosebud Clubby, and it was like his life depended on it, and that was the difference, you don't get that stuff in vet racing anymore,
Very rarely. Yep.
Nah, you know what I mean? I'm like, oh man, I don't miss that.
That's hilarious.
I don't miss that one bit. Apparently I cross jumped him, but again, I didn't even know he's behind me. So, my argument to him was, mate, I'm twice your age, mate. You got to ask yourself why you were behind me.
Checkmate.
Yeah, checkmate. I'm 34, mate. If you're 17, you should have been miles in front of me. But anyway, getting back to the point, that's what's great about the vet class, man, is there's none of that.
Yep.
There's none of that. We all talk on the line. We're all mates.
Still as competitive, just not, like I said, there's just not that element of recklessness. Nah, that's it, man. And it's good. Yeah. Good like that. That should be really, good on them. Oh, for sure. All right. Well, speaking about young and fast, I think it was awesome again. We saw him at Wonthaggi, but for a Vic title to see, the best riders in the country descended upon Traralgon, Webster and Beaton, just a different level. And it doesn't matter how many times I see those guys on the track. It's just impressive, and it still blows me away every time. I think you got a chance to watch those guys on Saturday as well, didn't you?
Yeah, so we were on the line as their moto. They were the race before us. So, I could pretty much see the whole track from the starting gate. And those two, especially, even with the rest of the national class, those two just seem to be on another level.
Yep.
In a league of their own. And you can sort of measure the speed they're going. Kyle went and raced Redbud last year and had a 7th place finish. I think he was 10th overall because he had a crash in the other moto. But
was running second for a while,
Yeah, you know what I mean? That's that AMA type pace. And obviously Jed had a long time in Europe racing the MXGPs. He was on a factory Husky ride for a handful of years and stuff like that, and had podiums over in the MXGP. So, I don't doubt that those boys are going at that pace now in Australia, at that AMA MXGP sort of pace. I think if they went over there and raced an AMA or a GP, that they would still be in the top 10.
I think they've improved since then, to be honest.
Well, that's what I mean. They've probably improved. Kyle obviously had a great performance at the Des Nations as well.
Yep.
That sort of just proved to everyone that he's world class. So yeah, it is. It's pretty good to see that over here. The rest of the guys at the Nationals have got their work cut out for them. Cloudy has been there and sort of kept them honest. But, when it comes to the crunch, those two are just, standout riders in terms of just how fast they are.
And consistently fast as well.
Yeah. And to my understanding, they're good. They're friends too. They train together with Ross during the week. And, I've ridden PBI during the week when they've been there. And, to my understanding, they're friends too, which is pretty cool.
Yep.
Yeah, they've got that camaraderie together and that mutual respect on and off the track, which I like to see.
I mean, on Saturday, we saw Beaton lead Webster pretty much for the entire race. These guys train together like 3 times a week. Like you, I've seen them train together a lot, especially out at PBI. And Beaton is usually in front. They base their order of all the Beaton's Pro Formula guys on their qualifying lap time in their first moto that they go out on track.
Right.
And Webster's usually behind Beaton. Now, I heard an interview with Webster after Gilman where he said that he didn't mind sitting behind Beaton because he gets to see the lines and where Beaton is. And it actually got me thinking now, watching these guys race on Saturday, I feel like Webster has elevated to the point where he's completely dropped the ego a little bit associated with racing. Because now that I reflect and think about watching them training and then watching them race on Saturday and what went down at Gilman at the South Australian state title before the Gilman Pro MX, where Webster won the first moto, I think, and Beaton won the second, but Webster sat right behind him. And then watching him sit right behind Beaton, I almost feel like Webster's not so fussed on the result on these non-Pro MX races. And he's just...
like he's trying to learn what Jed does.
Exactly, because the reality is, like, he knows how fast he is. There is no benefit to him sitting in front of Jed at these races that, in the greater scheme of things, don't really matter for these guys.
Yeah, no.
It's, so even though Beaton led Webster, I'm not sure that's the way it's going to happen when the Pro MX comes to town because, I think it allows Webster the opportunity to see where he's faster, where Jed's faster, where the passing opportunities are. And these are all things that he wouldn't get if he was sitting in front of Beaton or battling with Beaton, in some sort of heated engagement.
Yeah, hey, you're probably spot on. We used to watch that sort of stuff, that cat and mouse stuff with like Ricky and James back in the day, where, I think even Ricky Carmichael used to say he would rather be in second behind James, because he could watch his lines, watch where he was good, watch where he wasn't, figure out a place to capitalise and then, make a pass or whatever, rather than just having the pressure of being out in front. A smart, intelligent rider like Kyle would have the wisdom to take those things on and watch Jed and see where he's good and see where he's bad. And, I don't think there was anywhere that Jed was bad. But
no, definitely not.
Just, you're right. Have a little bit of probably like ammunition maybe coming into the Nationals, where if he doesn't get the start and, he ends up behind Jed, he might go, hey, I remember at the state titles, he seemed a bit slower here, or he didn't attack this or whatever, and have a bit of a strategy perhaps.
Well, they're so close, and so how do you get that advantage? I think they're both as fast as one another, and how do you get that advantage? And I think this is potentially one way that Webster can get a little bit of an advantage behind Beaton or on Beaton. Yeah. Yeah.
No, I totally agree, Pete. Yeah, I think it wouldn't be wrong to assume that at all.
Well, it's going to be interesting to see how it plays out in a few weeks' time. Anyway.
Yeah, definitely. No, I'm very excited to get down to that. remember Traralgon ever having a national in my adult life. So, yeah, I'm very excited to get down there.
Yeah, I've been saying for like the last 3 years I'd love to see one there, A, because of the track, but also because of the layout, the way the elevation sort of lifts up in front of the spectator area. And you've got a 360-degree view of the whole track. So, you know, from the top of the hill looking down or from the bottom of the hill looking up, you can pretty much see, you know, 85% of the track. So It's going to be unreal for racing. It was on the weekend. You know, there was people lining up along the top there under the trees as well as, you know, across the bottom. And I think from a spectator perspective, it's going to be one of the best tracks we've got anywhere in Australia.
Hope so, man. Hope so.
Yep.
Yeah, no, that'd be good.
Yep. In MX2, Connolly was sort of as you'd expect, but a standout for me was Seth Birchall. I think he's going to be one to watch in a few weeks' time as well. Definitely.
Yeah, the WBR boys have really stepped up their program this year as well with their bikes and their team and stuff like that. Yeah, Seth Birchall was obviously, you know, did really well in under 19s, and you sort of just think that people that come out of under 19s maybe aren't as fast as top MX2 guys, and it just goes to show the depth in the under 19s class because they really are.
And he just seems to be getting a little bit better every time we see him out on the bike.
No, he looks good for sure.
Yeah, ended up winning MX2A as well on the Sunday.
Oh, cool. Did Connolly not race on the Sunday?
He only did the first two motos.
Okay, yeah. I think Brodie Connolly's the man to beat in the MX2 class this year. I think he's in a league of his own.
Oh, he's world class, I think.
Yeah.
And I actually think once he steps up to MX1, he's going to be better, or he has a higher ceiling than even Webster and Beaton. I think he's better all round on different surfaces. He's younger. He's super hungry. But I think he's sort of a next level talent. So once everything comes together and the maturity comes in as well, because there's been a lot of talk over the last few weeks about his attitude and how angry he gets when he races, which I think it benefits him, but I think it also can be detrimental in certain situations. I think once that all comes together, I think he's going to be, well, I don't think he's going to hang around in Australia. But I was going to say, I don't think we'll see him race a 450 in Australia. I think he'll be overseas. Yep. Probably next year, I reckon. I think he's even mentioned that is his plan. Yep. To sort of defend his title here and then either get over to America or Europe next year. So. But that'll be his. I think he'll be another Australian that will make a real mark on the world scene. Kiwi. Sorry, a Kiwi, but I always claim him. So It's all the same, especially when they're doing well. Yeah, no, that's it. We're all one. I know we might get some angry comments from some New Zealanders under the podcast, but you're gonna have Ben Townley light you up. Oh, that's all right. We're claiming Connolly; he's ours now. Fair enough. Jack Devison took out MX3. He was super impressive as well on the Saturday. Obviously, Kate Kingsford had a bad moto. I think it was Moto 1. But, Jack Devison looked really good at Traralgon. So he might play a bit of spoiler between Kate Kingsford and Kai Woods come Pro MX as well. I'm not sure I've seen him out there, to be honest, man. I think that was on the Sunday, was it? No, Saturday in MX3. Okay. Yep. And another standout, so finishing second in MX3 and second in MX2A on Sunday, was our very own Caden Strode. Like, he was on fire out there, getting some absolutely cracking starts. He ran with Kate Kingsford for a long time in one of the motos. This could be his round when it comes to the Pro MX. I hope so, man. I've got a lot of time for Strodey and his old man, and that they're good people. Yeah. Yeah, no, I definitely got pretty fired up watching him racing out there, and he looked comfortable. He looked like he could run the pace. So, I can't wait to see what he does in a few weeks' time as well. Seb Bartlett, standout. I'm glad for Seb. You know, after his injury last year at the Vics, he opted to stay in B grade. I think he could have easily gone, you know, either to A grade or to B grade this year. He took out All Powers B and MX2 B grade. it looks unreal, and it's good to see him sort of gain that confidence and that experience at the B grade level. And I think he's going to be one of these young riders that definitely makes a mark in the coming rounds and years as well.
Good on him for having the the maturity to do another year of B grade, man. Like we sort of spoke about earlier, we have in the past seen a lot of guys that they jump up into A and it's just a completely different race altogether, and they just get demoralised, lose confidence, and then lose belief in their ability, and a lot of people just stop racing. So for him to build another year of confidence and do that, power to him, man. That's a good move.
Most definitely. Judd Chislett, second in MX2B on Sunday. He moved up from C grade last year, and again, he's another one of these riders that just seems to be improving. Like every time we see him out. Did you get to see much of him over the weekend?
Yeah, I did actually. Yeah, he looks good on the Scrivens Honda there. He's one of those guys of like from a technique perspective. He looks very good.
Yep.
His fundamentals and stuff on a bike are good to watch. I like his technique. He quite often has a lot of good content on his socials. His dad Drew is a pretty well respected photographer as well. So he's always got all the right content and all the good photos and stuff. But yeah, I did actually took the time to watch him ride because of that. So yeah, he looks really good.
Yeah, he strikes me as being one of those guys. It's like that old adage about, focusing on technique and the speed will come. And that seems to be the way he's sort of developed. The technique's been there and the speed is increasing each time he hits the track.
Yeah, I agreed. Yeah, he was very visually appealing to watch.
Yeah. Another rider that stood out to me in B grade was Jet Williams. He's got some support from Peter Stevens, 2 podiums for the weekend in All Powers B and MX2B as well. Yeah,
Ripper kid too. Yeah, got a lot of time for Jet and Jackson, both the boys. They're good guys, and he's got a never say die attitude. Young Jet, always got a big smile on his face. So yeah. Great kid, man. Yeah,
well spoken as well. Like, gave some good interviews. Yep. So we'll be posting them by the time this podcast is live. You can find them both on the Mental for Moto page and the MV Motocross page as well.
Awesome.
Steve Powell in the over 40s on the 2-stroke performance 250cc 2-stroke. He wasn't sure he'd be able to compete in the sand on the 2-stroke, but man, that guy, every time he hits the track, he just reminds us that age is no barrier, I think.
Just reminds everyone that we suck. Yeah.
Yeah. I think he hasn't been riding quite as much this year, so he did it a little bit harder than he normally does. But, just impressive. Again, he's just one of those riders that every time I see him out on the track, he just seems to have a bit of an effortless style, and he's as fast as anyone. Like, age aside, he can compete at pretty much any level, I reckon.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah, Powley's one of my all-time favourite riders, man. I actually was saying this to another rider. I always try and make an effort to watch Powley when he races, just for the way that he rides the track.
Yep.
He just picks smart lines and rides around bumps and things like that. And I always think to myself, if I can ride the lines Powley rides, my day will be a lot easier.
Yeah. Well, you think about the experience he's got. He was a Pro MX level racer, back when it was the Nationals. He was the top finishing privateer, but since then, through his own business and his own work, he's been a test rider, a suspension guru. Like, he's got such a wealth of experience that he can bring onto the track. It's not just all about going fast. It's just, I think that's what gives him a really distinct advantage over a lot of other riders.
Agreed. Yeah. Just a guru, man.
Yeah. I might have to start calling him that. I'm not sure he'll dig it, but I'll call him that anyway. The guru.
Yeah. He'd appreciate it, man. Yeah, he's the Gandhi of motocross. Yeah.
He's got a bit more hair.
Yeah.
Yeah. And just quickly, a couple more quick mentions. The expert women. This class was very high level again. Great to see Maddie Healy starting to find her form. She was out injured for a lot of time last year. Emily Lambert from South Australia, she actually hung with Maddie, so she's she's one of our younger women's riders. So, I always talk her up on the podcast because I think she's got really, really good potential. But to see her, I guess, elevate that little bit and stick with Maddie, I think is really good to see. And the other one, Keita Diprose from Tasmania, she has improved to no end since last year as well. She raced the Junior Vics last year, and man, she looks fantastic out there.
It's great to see, isn't it?
Yeah.
The women's side of the sport elevating the way it is.
Yeah, for sure.
And they're going fast, man. Like, truth be told, I'm kind of glad I'm not on the same gate as they are, because I'd probably lose a lot more confidence.
Yeah, for sure. It's it's cool to see, and we're going to get Clea White on for a chat a little bit later to talk about some of the women's racing, because she's a bit of an ambassador for women's racing in Victorian, and have a chat about what we can do to get maybe some more girls and women on the gate as well. Yeah,
awesome, man. Yeah, they're all doing a really good job, man, and it's really good to see.
Yeah, and of course, Kaylee Cameron, she rounded out the expert women's class as well. So good to see her back on the track. She's taken a step back from racing a little bit this year, not doing the Pro MX, so she's focusing on the Vics. But yeah, good to see her out there again, and she's riding well as well.
100%, man. It's really good. It's a good. It feels like the sport's healthy at the moment, doesn't it? Like on a state level.
100%. It was good last year, and it's even better again this year. And I think, to be honest, man, that's testament to the Vic Championship and the effort that's gone into making this back. Like we talked about it last year in the season preview, the prestige. The focus has been on bringing back the prestige to this series, and I think it's the proof's in the pudding. We're sort of seeing that with each round. It just seems to be getting better. The caliber of riders, the number of riders on the gate, and even like at the junior levels, it's just getting better and better each round. And I'm getting more excited each time to go, and shoot and see how it all plays out.
It's good, man. Yeah, it's a good time for Victorian motocross, man. That's for sure.
Yeah. And finally, just in the 65cc features race, Max Liguri took it out. Mason Isagalis had an issue in Moto2, but, again, this 65cc features race, it gave these kids some experience and practice at Traralgon in the lead up to the Pro MX, which will be the first round of the 65s there for 2025. But, Max Liguri, again, one of our Victorian juniors, super impressive taking that class out.
Definitely. And he, I was actually pitted next to them on Saturday, and he came in after practice and that, and just spoke about how uncomfortable he was on the track, and he didn't feel safe and things like that. And to see him turn it around and ride the way he did was actually really impressive.
Yep.
Just to know that he didn't feel that good out there, and he put that all beside him and put in the effort that he did. That was impressive effort from them.
No, definitely. Well, I think that just about covers round 2 of the Peter Stevens Victorian MX Championship. Did you have any other points that you wanted to talk about, Dino?
I think we've covered it all, Pete. Yeah, I think what we've said is pretty well spot on, and the direction it's all heading based off of the momentum that we gained last year from the series is heading in the direction we hoped it would. So it's just a matter of enjoying it and letting the good times roll, man.
So up next for the Senior Vics, we head out to Horsham in June. What are your thoughts on Horsham as a track in general, and how you think that might go for the Senior Victorian Championship?
I personally like Horsham. I raced the Western regions for a few years back in the day, so I've done a few laps around Horsham. I actually enjoy it. It's a difficult track for viewing and like spectators and stuff. Not maybe as good as Traralgon and that, but yeah, I enjoy it. I think they've made quite a few changes. I've seen the last regional they had. It looked like it had some changes, but I enjoy Horsham, especially when it gets prepped the way that it needs to, because it does have it's a hard packed track, but it does have a very hard base too. But
very different to Traralgon. Very different to Traralgon.
Yeah. Providing it doesn't rain, Horsham will be good. Yep. If it rains at Horsham, I think my bike's staying in the van. But yeah. So no, I'm actually looking forward to that one.
Fantastic. And of course, we've postponed the next junior round, which was going to be this weekend at Winton. and that'll be happening on June 28 to 29. So, for anyone that hadn't heard the news, don't head out to Winton this weekend.
Right. I was actually unaware of that. So, yeah, cool.
Yeah. Thanks for joining me on the line, Dino. It's always a pleasure, and it's been great to catch up.
Likewise, Pete. Thanks for doing what you do for the sport. And, no doubt I'll see you swinging off the camera at the next round.
No, thank you, mate. All right, on the line now, we have Sam Armstrong. Welcome to the Peter Stevens Vic MX show, Sam.
Yeah, thank you for inviting me on.
It's my pleasure. I've been watching you racing for the last few years, so it's good to sit down and have a chat on the podcast.
Yeah, definitely. It's good to say that I've finally been involved.
You all recovered after the weekend?
Yeah, recovered quite well. Not anything major, really.
Yeah, it was a pretty brutal track, wasn't it? It gets like that when some of the top Pro MX guys like your Jed Beatons and your Cole Websters come to town.
Yeah, definitely. It got pretty wild by the end. It's probably the roughest state round I've seen.
Yep. And how do you go with the length of the motos? Because they're fairly close to the Pro MX length motos, aren't they?
Yeah, I prefer longer motos.
Yep.
Yeah, when I'm fit, usually that's where I go better, being able to last a distance.
Yep. Well, before we talk too much about the weekend, tell me a little bit about yourself. So, how old are you and whereabouts are you from?
I'm currently 20 and I live in Bright, Victoria.
Oh, yep. So, how long have you been riding and where did it all start?
So I've pretty well ridden my whole life. Since a young kid, but I started racing motocross in 2020 before COVID hit, and got into it from my dad. He used to race the off-roads back in the day.
And before you raced motocross, I think you did a little bit of grass track and that sort of stuff?
Yeah, we used to do a lot of local club events and a few Vic off-roads, but I was never really interested in the bush riding, so stopped to motocross.
I can definitely relate. Did you sort of get some skills from that now that you think, where it gives you advantages in areas on a motocross track?
Yeah, definitely. Like, pays off doing a bit of everything.
Yep.
But I found I built more skill from motocross.
So, for instance, when it gets muddy or dry hardpack or fast flat corners, that sort of stuff. Like, where does it actually translate?
Yeah, the more off-camber stuff, because a lot of the off-roads are in the hills and everything, and the way they form up a lot different to a motocross track, so you sort of get used to riding, stuff that doesn't necessarily flow all the time.
And does it help you, because in the bush, obviously, you can't see what's coming up ahead, does it sort of help you acclimatise to the track as it changes? Because I know from riding, that's something that I actually struggle with a little bit. Like going out, it takes me a little while to get my flow. And the guys that are really good, they can adapt way quicker than I can. Does it sort of help with that?
Yeah, definitely. Because you got to remember a lot longer of a track and what's coming up. So that pays off being able to know which is where and how everything's formed up.
And did you race off-road or flat track and grass track from a young age, or was it just something you did as a hobby?
I sort of raced off-road since year 7 onwards. And then, I wasn't very consistent in it, obviously, but, then I stopped to motocross.
And, you obviously take that a lot more seriously because you're pretty much at every event that I go to.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I enjoy it a lot more, so it's a bit easier to, go every weekend.
Yeah, and I know from talking to you, it's a bit of a family thing. Does your dad still race?
He does, or sort of does. He hasn't raced this year yet, but he's going to do a few of the off-roads, he reckons, so.
And do they get involved, like your parents get involved in your racing? So are they there every weekend, or do you do it all by yourself?
No, they come to all the nationals, but there's a few I go to my own, but majority of them, mum or both of them come.
No, that's always good to have someone there to help out. So does your old man mechanic for you when he is at the races?
Yeah, he's in the mechanics area, but otherwise that's usually mum's job if he's not there.
Yeah. All right. So we'll get on to the weekend at Traralgon. What classes did you race there?
I raced the All Powers on Saturday and then MX2 on Sunday.
Yeah. So talk me through. We'll start with Saturday. Talk me through the all powers.
Yeah, well, it started off good. I had a pretty good starts all day. And Moto 1, I think I ended up second in class. And then, third in Moto 2, and then fourth or fifth in Moto 3.
Yeah, so you finished the day on the podium, which was pretty good.
Yeah, definitely.
So,
it's good to continue it.
Yeah, so what did you think about the track on Saturday from the outside looking in? You know, I was obviously out there taking photos. It looked pretty gnarly. Like it wasn't, to me, wasn't quite as rough as round one at Wonthaggi, but it was pretty close.
Oh, yeah, definitely. It was pretty beaten up. Like, I couldn't believe how much the track had changed. Because it's not a track, I've only ridden it once before, so I didn't really get a good idea of it.
Yeah, I've seen Traralgon get quite rough, but never get like those sorts of ruts. It was kind of a mix between clay and sand. Like the sand almost got blown away and it left the hard base underneath. Would you agree with that?
Yeah. In some sections, it was, like coming out of corners, it got quite hard packed, but most of the corners still managed to hold a fair bit of the sand and rut up.
And do you like that sort of track when it gets technical like that, or do you prefer sort of a faster flat track?
I prefer that track because that's usually when I go better. Like, because on a flat track, everyone tends to go a lot quicker than I do.
Yeah, I mean, I can't believe how fast, like, those top MX1 boys, they bomb into those ruts. They don't slow down. Like, they don't slow down no matter what happens to the track.
Yeah, it's crazy how the lap times don't change much over the day.
Yeah, it's I don't understand it. I mean, for me, it all comes so quickly. I don't know how they adapt and how they prepare themselves for the ruts, but I know talking to another pro rider who's actually races MX1, he reckons that there's no way that they can see where they're going. They just do it all on muscle memory.
Yeah, exactly.
So on Sunday you raced MX2 B grade. Like the track looked a fair bit different on the Sunday. It looked a little bit softer and loamier in the morning. What were your thoughts about Sunday? And talk me through your races on the Sunday in MX2 because that was a pretty big class, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was quite stacked for a state round. But unfortunately, I just struggled most of the day after being fatigued from Saturday's racing, and poor starts let me down a fair bit.
Who were you battling with on the Sunday? Because you were battling a fair bit with one rider. Oh, was it Archie Hyde?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was on me back pretty well both motos. Oh, yeah, the first two motos.
How long have you been racing B grade for?
I think 3 years now. Yeah, because I originally started off in C grade, and I think maybe 23 was my first year.
Yeah. And have you done the VIX for the last few years?
Yeah. Since 23, I've done all the VIX that I haven't been injured for.
So you've been racing the VIX for a few years now. Like, what have you thought about the championship last year and this year especially? It seems to have sort of improved in terms of numbers and tracks. And, what do you think about the events and the way it's sort of trending?
Yeah, well, this year I prefer it a lot more because we've got a few sand rounds in. Evens out the playing field, and also we've got the first two rounds before the national there. The track's all the numbers. Yes,
yeah, of course, and that makes the track probably rougher than it would be at a normal Vic MX round. So, in terms of your experience racing the Pro MX, because you race MX2 at the Pro MX as well, how do you think the track at the Pro MX is going to hold up for that event?
It's going to be pretty wild. I reckon it's going to be, definitely quite rough. But hopefully, by the looks of the weekend, it didn't deteriorate too bad, like in up ramps and everything. Like, a lot of the up ramps didn't get any major kickers or anything.
Yep.
So, yeah.
I reckon it'll probably be a little bit deeper and wetter, I think, when the Pro MX comes to town. So I expect the track on the weekend was pretty fast, so I expect it'll probably be a little bit slower then too.
Yeah, definitely. I'd imagine they're going to have to change a few sections to the Pro MX, and with it being a fair bit deeper, with how they usually prep them, it'll be a lot different.
So have you raced at the next two tracks that we've got in the series, which is Horsham and Cobram as well?
Yeah, I've raced both of them.
And what are your thoughts about those tracks?
I like the layout of Horsham. It's just a tough track in practice.
Yep.
with the clay. But Cobram, I've only raced there once and I didn't go too good.
Yeah, it's, I don't know, to me, like Horsham obviously went to the Pro MX there last year. I still think it's a Pro MX level track. It's long. It gets technical. Like you said, it's a clay track, so it sort of starts off wet and ends up with some hard pack ruts. Cobram, we had the Junior Vics there last year, and I'm not sure that it's a senior motocross track, but obviously that's the only event that I've seen there, so I'm not quite sure how that's going to form up. What do you reckon?
Really depends on how they prep it. Because the past time I've raced there, it was really one-lined and dried out quite quickly.
Yep.
But that was for a regional, so hopefully for a Vic title, they prep it a lot different.
Yeah, I think they'll have to get a lot more water in it. Like last year, too, when the Vic Junior round was there, it was super hot. So, I mean, they actually prepped the track really well, but it dried out like by the probably end of the first round of motos.
Yep. Yeah, no, that's usually what happens there.
So, what other races are you planning to race this year?
I'll hopefully finish off the Pro MX and the Vic series.
Yep.
And then do a couple of Vic, do at least one Vic off-road before Hatter.
Oh, yep. So you do some off-road racing as well still?
Yeah, only the sand rounds really.
Yep.
But yeah, and plus they're a good lead up into Hatter because we don't get to do much longer than 25 minutes or 30 minutes at a motocross, so it's good to have something different.
Oh, it's a big step up to do a 4-hour race, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely.
Yep. So you've done it. You've done Hatter before?
Yeah, I've done it 3 times, I think.
Yep. And how have you gone?
I've never gone any good because the first 2 times I went in injured, and then the third time I had bike issues.
Yeah, it's an absolutely grueling race. Like, I live and breathe motocross and supercross. Like, that's what I love. But I went to Hatter in 23, and I still think it's probably the best off-road motorcycling event I've been to. They do an amazing job out there. Yeah,
definitely. There's nothing else like it. And it's, even though 4.5 hours sounds bad, but it's not as bad as what you think it is. Good fun.
Oh, just the scale of it. Like, you know, seeing 500 riders on the line and seeing the quad bike sort of ride along and watching them all take off. There's just a buzz about it. I don't know. It's I just thought it was really cool.
Yeah, definitely. It's got a good atmosphere to it as well.
Yeah, and you obviously love riding in the sand.
Yeah, sand's what I prefer to do now. So
I've picked that up just from you've mentioned it about 3 times.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So you mentioned just having some injuries. So at Ballarat last year during the Vics, you had a pretty scary looking crash. What happened there?
So bike shut off on an up ramp of a jump and sort of lent me front wheel heavy, and I ended up hitting the ground, and the bike landed on top of me and ended up fracturing a vertebrae, my L3 vertebrae. So yeah, that left me off the bike for a fair while.
Yeah. So what was the recovery like?
It was pretty good because I went down to see John Park, the physio, down in Melbourne.
Yep.
Which, yeah, he helped me get through it a lot quicker than I thought I was going to be because I was told a complete different story from the fracture clinic.
Yeah. So what did you have to do to rehab it and recover?
So basically you had to do a form of exercises and then sort of like build up like exercises to get compression going through the spine to tolerate the pain. And yeah, so after 10 weeks, it was pretty well whatever you could tolerate is what you could do.
Yeah, yeah. Did you have to have a fusion, or have you got any hardware in there, or it was able to heal up by itself?
Well, at the moment, I haven't had anything like any surgery on it, but they did say in the future there will possibly be an issue with like slipping a disc or other issues like that.
Yeah. So you haven't got any nerve issues or anything like that at the moment?
Not necessarily nerves, but a lot of ligament. I've still struggled a fair bit with it. Like just doing certain things for a certain amount of time wears me down pretty quick.
Yeah. Does it just ache or just gets fatigued?
Yeah, it gets fatigued and aches for a bit. But yeah, all in the muscular areas.
Yep. Well, I mean, I've already mentioned it already, but you do a lot of racing. You race the Vics, you race Pro MX, you're doing an off-road, you're doing Hatter. Like, how do you train and how do you balance it all? Because I'm assuming living the privateer life, you work as well?
Yeah, I work full time, so that makes it a bit difficult. But yeah, I train as many nights as I can. I go to the gym throughout the week. But then usually on Thursday and Wednesday nights is pretty well getting your stuff sorted.
Yeah. So do you ride midweek as well?
Nah, not only during summer when I'm like daylight savings is around.
And what do you do for work?
I'm a plumber.
Oh, you'll be able to pay for the privateer life then.
Yeah, I wish that was the case.
Yeah. Oh, what are you fully qualified?
Yeah, I'm qualified now, so it's made it a lot easier.
Yeah. Have you got a forgiving boss that gives you time off to race, or do you work for yourself?
No, I've got a boss, and he's pretty good. Lets me have all like the days off I need, and he was fine when I had me injuries, like to let me have time off. And then he's also sponsored me for this year, which made a difference.
Oh, fantastic! Yeah, it's definitely no small task putting a year of racing together, is it?
Nah, definitely not. It's pretty well like a second job, really, with the time you spend and the money and everything.
Well, you're definitely all in. So what are your goals in the sport, like long term?
I just want to get as high as I can in the national level, which is a bit, difficult for like at the moment. But hopefully next year I have a much better season, come in a bit more fitter and healthier.
Will we ever see you race Supercross?
I'd love to, but that's sort of a money issue by the time you do a full season of nationals and Vics and everything. Oh, maybe next year if I sort out a bit more of a better setup.
Yeah, it's a completely different bike setup, and you've got to train and have somewhere to train. So I understand.
Yeah, definitely.
No, well, thanks for coming on the podcast, Sam. It's been great having a chat, and look forward to doing it again sometime. Before I let you go, is there anyone you'd like to mention or anyone that supports your program that you'd like to give a shout out to?
I'd like to thank Shepparton Motorcycles, Alpine Star, Choice Suspension, Prime Design, and my parents at J&O Armstrong Builders, Hotel Nicholas, and Plumbing by Hall. And, of course, you for sorting out all the photos every weekend.
My pleasure, mate. Yeah, it takes a lot to put it all together, so it's nice to be a small part of it, man. And, like I said, it's great to have had you on the podcast for a chat.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, next on the line, we have Clea White and Kallam Orchard. Welcome to the Vic MX podcast, guys.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us.
So I'll start with you, Clea. Tell me a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, so my name's Clea White. I'm a 23-year-old motocross racer from the Mornington Peninsula in Victoria. Yeah, it's my second year of racing. I race a KTM 250.
Yep, and so how did it all start for you? Because I know you guys a little bit, and I know your dad races dirt bikes. So, tell me about how it all began.
Yeah, so Dad definitely got me into riding when I was about 7. He actually bought a Pee-wee for us for Christmas. So me and my brother shared that as one of our Christmas presents. So that's kind of how we got into it. And then he just kept getting me. I think he got me a 110 next, and then an 85, and then a 250, and just loved every second of it, and went riding almost every weekend since I got the bike. So. Yeah.
So you've been riding since you were a kid, but only sort of just started racing in recent years. Is that right?
Yeah. Mum and Dad never wanted to push me into racing, and then I think I was like 19, and I was like, no, I want to have a go at racing. So decided to give it a shot. It's a bit late, but I'm enjoying it now, so that's good.
No, it's never too late. So where's your home track?
The track I grew up riding was Hastings.
Yep.
So the Mornington Peninsula Club, or whatever it's called now. Kind of grew up riding there, and Dad was quite heavily involved for a while too, so definitely say that's my home track.
Yeah, just to digress a little bit, your dad is still very, very handy on a dirt bike and races the vets. What's his sort of background in racing?
Well, he raced when he was younger than me, and then gave it up because he, got told he needed a proper profession and way to earn money, so kind of gave it up to put all of that forward. And then I started racing and he was at every single gate drop and loving every second of it, and Mum felt like she was, depriving him of having a go, and all the boys were like, let Adam ride. So he actually did his first season last year, and it had been 30 years since he raced.
Oh, wow.
He went out and smashed it.
Yep. Yeah, so 30 years. Yeah, you wouldn't know that watching him ride. Like, he looks like he's ridden his whole life. Did he ride and just not race in those years in between?
Yeah, he picked up riding when I got the 50, the Pee-wee.
Yep.
And then kind of got more and more into it, but didn't really do much before that. And then obviously through me wanting to go down every single weekend, he was taking his bikes down and getting more and more into it and faster. And then he was a little kid in a candy store. There were some weekends where he'd come in, fill the bike up, go out, run it out of fuel again, come back in, fill it up and keep going. I actually wouldn't see him for most of the day when he was doing that kind of riding because he just loves it so much, which is awesome.
Yeah. So I notice, just to change the subject a little bit, I notice on the side of your bike you've got a big Bowens logo. So what do you do outside of motocross? Because that's got to do with your work, doesn't it?
Yeah, correct. I'm a chippy outside of work. So I'm a fourth year. And through that, I've gotten the opportunity to partner up with Bowens as one of their ambassadors. So I work with Bowens for social media and stuff like that, basically promoting their brand and what they stand for as a family-owned business. So they got me to put it down as an influencer, but I don't know, that word kind of sits funny with me.
No, I agree. I think brand ambassador has a lot more class than an influencer for sure.
Yeah, I think so too. Yeah.
Yeah. So, do they actually support your program as well?
They don't support my program, but I was like, pretty cool opportunity to even be partnered with them through work for social media. So why not put it on the bike? And they think it's really cool. They're sponsoring some of the supercars this year, so there's the potential that I'll take my bike to one of the rounds or something like that. But yeah.
Oh, that's fantastic. It's always good to see outside companies come in and sponsor motorsport, even if it's not motocross. So the potential's always there in the future. At least you've got their eye on the motocross prize now.
Yeah, exactly. That's right. I'm hoping next year there'll be some opportunities for them to come in and do some stuff with motocross, but we'll just see how it all goes. Yeah.
All right, Cal, I'll ask you the same sort of thing, but you're sort of sitting out the racing at the moment. So what's all that about?
I had a small tip over a couple of weeks ago, just a practice crash, which resulted in a compression fracture or end plate fractures to T2 and T3.
Oh, no.
So, unfortunately, missed out the Traralgon Vic, and I was going to do the Traralgon National as well, seeing as it's my favourite track. But, you win sometimes and you lose sometimes.
Yeah. So, same sort of thing. Tell me a little bit about yourself and how you got started in the sport.
Well, I grew up racing and riding on around East Gippsland, so did the Gippies and that as a kid. So I grew up on a small farm in Bensdale, so East Gippsland, pretty much right next to the Bensdale motocross track. But I didn't really ride it much as a kid. I was mainly a Blue Rock, Traralgon, Newry track type of person. But I raced pretty much all the way through till I was 16, and then needed to get a job and finish school, and then had a few years off and started racing again when I was 21.
Yeah. So what do you do for a crust?
I'm a power line worker, so I work for Downer, which used to be Osnet.
Yeah. So you're living the privateer life though. You support your own program.
Yeah, full privateer life. I'm sponsored by my wallet, pretty much. I don't put that one on the stickers, but it's just a bit of fun for me. I don't really have any pressures. I don't have to go out there and win, and I just get to do and just enjoy racing. And that's pretty much why I stepped away from it when I was a kid. Like I say, a kid at 16, because I could have gone down the privateer route, but now I just get to enjoy it. I don't have to win, like I was saying before. It's awesome. And then on the plus side, I get to spend the time racing with Clea and all my friends that still race. So it's honestly a bit rewarding because, get to work and then ride on the weekends.
Oh, 100%. So when are we going to see you back on the bike?
Well, I'm hoping not too long. So I go through John Park with physio, which, as far as I'm aware, is the best in the business at getting people sorted.
Yep.
And he's, pretty much said 4 to 6 weeks, the bone will heal, and then hopefully we'll work it out from there, but get on a push bike and then start riding after that. But, as in terms of an exact date, I'm not sure yet, just seeing how I feel and how I heal.
Yeah, see how it goes. It's not an easy sort of injury to come back from, and everyone's a little bit different, I think. Yeah,
it's the first time I've done any major back damage, even though this is quite minor compared to some people in recent weeks. But it's still a back injury, and it's hurting nonetheless.
Yeah, and it's something that you have to sort of let heal fully, otherwise it can give you grief for a long time as well. So it's better to do it right the first time.
Exactly, and like we were touching on before, I don't race for a career, so I could, sit out as long as I need to make sure it does heal.
Yeah,
and just come back whenever I'm ready and heal it up.
No, for sure. Well, this is the Vic MX podcast. So back to you, Clea. What classes did you race on the weekend at Traralgon?
I just entered into the women's clubman event. That's the only one I raced this weekend.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit about your weekend.
I felt pretty good on the weekend. The track was gnarly Saturday, but I managed to find some lines that worked really well, and I kept it upright the whole day, which was pretty awesome considering I usually have a tip over throughout the day or two.
Yeah.
So I was stoked about that. I think I went 3:32, which put me second for the day in the clubman class. So I was super stoked about that because I don't think I've placed that. Well, I've actually never raced the Vics, so I was expecting maybe to not go as well. So I was real stoked about that.
Yep. So you did round 1 at Wonthaggi as well, didn't you? How did you think the track sort of compared?
I think the tracks were comparable. I find Wonthaggi a bit harder than Traralgon purely, I think, because I don't ride Wonthaggi as much as I ride Traralgon. But I was also pretty soon, that was pretty soon after I just got back on the bike from breaking my ankle. So my confidence level maybe wasn't as high, and I was probably still quite sore doing that. So I think my confidence is just picking up now, and, I'm getting more movement in my ankle and feeling better on the bike, which is probably also helping. And so you're seeing that in my results too.
Yeah. So did you come into the season with a goal for the Vics, or was it just about seeing where you end up and riding as well as you can?
It was probably a bit of both. Ideally, I would love to podium at the end of the Vics, but I'll just see how I go. I'm not really putting too much pressure on myself because of my ankle. I don't want to go out and do something silly and end up hurting myself again.
Yeah.
But I mean, I'm like Kallam, just enjoying racing for the fun of it, being around my friends, spending time with Kallam, my dad, and just enjoying the series with the girls. So, there's not too much pressure, but my competitive nature on the day goes, well, you can do better than that.
Yeah.
So I'm always trying to get the best position possible.
Yeah. We've got fairly good numbers at the senior Vics in the women's class, but we spoke on the last podcast, and the numbers at the junior Vics with girls coming into the sport seems to be quite a bit lower. I know that you sort of do a lot to promote the sport for girls and women to come into it, but what do you think we can do to get more women lining up in the gate and younger girls at the junior Vics?
It's such a tricky thing, and I was talking with the president at Rosebud about this, not the weekend just gone, but the weekend before, because they want to get to the point where they're doing a women-only gate drop, but they need 10 of us in the to enter to do that. And it's such a hard battle because the women that want to get into racing, they don't really want to race against the vets because they're scared, but then the club can't give us our own race unless there's a certain number of us. It's really a tricky battle to try and get more women involved. But I definitely think promoting it further towards like the junior girls and just having fun instead of like putting that pressure on them really helps. And, you know, there's those ride days that women are holding nowadays, which is really cool, and, you know, building up their confidence, because a lot of it is like confidence on the bike and confidence on the track.
Yep.
I spoke to so many girls at Rosebud and even a couple at Traralgon, and they're like, oh, I don't know, I just like, we're always following my brother around racing. I don't know, I'm just a bit nervous. I'm like, who cares? Like, if you come in last, doesn't matter. You gave it a shot. You know, have a go, have some fun. There's no pressure on you if you're just doing it to give it a shot and get out there, because the more girls that are involved, the better the sport will become for the girls going into seniors, which is, I guess, even better from when I started racing. So
For sure, yeah. It's almost like just treating it like a ride day. You know, it's obviously a little bit more structured, but treat it like a ride day with a gate drop, and don't think too hard about the rest of it.
Yeah, 100%, and just not put the pressure on yourself. Just have like the mindset to go out and enjoy it and have an experience out of it, instead of being like, oh my God, it's a race day, like I've got to perform, like what if I don't do this? What if I tip over? Blah, blah, blah. All that stuff like makes you stress out more, and then you don't ride as well as you want to. So just being able to enjoy it instead of thinking about it as like this pressured day is probably highly important to any of the girls out there listening, thinking about racing.
Yeah. Do you think like clubs should have more initiatives to get women and girls involved? Do you think that would help?
I think it probably would help. Rosebud did a good job of it. They actually did free entries for all women and girls racing, to kind of see whether they could entice more like females to come and give it a shot. And the numbers were definitely more up there. I mean, when I started the Sandmasters for the first year, I was the only woman that entered. And then now we've got 6 of us. So,
yep.
You know, I think definitely having a free entry for race days is a great initiative towards it. And it'd be awesome to get to the point where it's like so many women up there that, you know, you don't even notice the difference between classes, but it all takes time, and you see more girls out there riding at tracks, but getting them racing, I guess, is another thing. They've got to have that want and like push to race and perform in that kind of way instead of just enjoying it. But even then, like having girls riding on a ride day, I think is unreal.
Yeah. And I think like from the media perspective as well, just shining the spotlight on women's racing, because
Totally.
you know, at the Pro MX level, there's plenty of women at that race at a very, very high level. At the VIX, especially the senior VIX, you know, it's the same. At least at the Pro MX level, they don't get the TV telecasts and stuff, which I think is wrong. They're only on the live stream. But, you know, it would introduce, I think, open, you know, a lot of young girls' eyes that maybe just ride for fun, and introduce them to the fact that they can go race.
Yeah, I totally agree. I remember going to the Nationals down at Wonthaggi and watching all the girls and being like, oh my God, I think I could do that. Maybe I'll get to do that one day. And it's still on my bucket list to do a national event. But definitely promoting it through the media and everything's helping. You even see it through like your page and Better by Dirt, where they're posting photos of the women riding, and the little girls are like, oh my God, maybe I'll get my photo taken if I ride this track, and they'll take photos of me. And so like they want to ride more because they want the photos, which sounds so silly, but you know, every girl wants a photo of them riding their bike to show all their friends. So
for sure,
it's good.
Nah, whatever it takes.
Yeah, literally.
Yep. So Cal, you raced at the Pro MX level as a junior. We were just talking about that off air. You got to watch all the racing at Traralgon for the senior VIX on the weekend from the sideline, unfortunately. But what were your thoughts on how the track formed up and how that will translate when the Pro MX comes to town?
Well, I personally have ridden a lot of laps around Traralgon, and I haven't seen it in a racing standpoint look that good in many years. So I was really, really jealous that I missed out on racing. But in terms of being a track, it should offer plenty of passing options and tight racing, because it divided like the top level riders from the lower level riders. Yeah, I was interested to see how it would go, because there was a lot of people doubting Traralgon as a track in terms of racing at a high level. But I think it's going to be just fine, and it's going to be a really fun race to watch.
Yeah, I was stoked. I've been saying that I'd love to see Traralgon at the national level probably for about 3 years. Obviously, the track needed a few changes, which they did this weekend in terms of just widening it up and making it flow just a little bit better. But beyond that, I can't wait. I think it's a great track. You can see the whole track from the spectator area. I think they did an amazing job at the Vics, sort of getting it ready and giving it a bit of a test run for the main stage.
Yeah, it was perfect timing to have the Vics there, like only a couple of weeks away from the national. And I mean, they got fairly lucky with the amount of water they had through the week, which I think for Saturday, it was nice and deep, and the soil was amazing. Like from the outside looking in, it was really good. So it rutted up nice, and it's quite unique soil compared to like any other track. It's the closest track around is probably Wonthaggi, but it doesn't get as deep as Wonthaggi or as heavy, in my opinion.
Yep.
So it's a bit like it's a fair bit faster. So yeah, and like you said, the spectators can get the whole way around the track. So like I went on the Sunday and viewed above one of the top corners, and you can literally see the entire track in like every corner. Yeah, and it's close to Traralgon too, so it's a bonus.
Yeah, it's going to introduce the sport hopefully to a lot of new eyes and spectators that will come out and see it for the first time.
Yeah, exactly, because it's only hour and a half from Melbourne itself, and then you got all of East Gippsland and Gippsland people. That plenty of us ride around this area, so it's like I said, hopefully it gets the advertising it needs for people to actually see that it's going to be an event here, because I reckon it has the ability to be quite a large event, and hopefully the weather holds out, because if it does, it should be great.
We saw like some of the top Pro MX riders out there, and it's great seeing them come race the Vics. And I think, look, the Vic Championship is getting to the caliber where I expect that even when we don't have Pro MX rounds coming up, we're going to see a few more of these top caliber national riders at the tracks. But did you have any thoughts like seeing, your Jed Beatons and Kyle Webster and Brodie Connolly and Ryder Kingsford sort of get around about the track itself and how it's going to race?
Yeah, in terms of the 250s, I feel like the 250s will be the race to watch, in my opinion, because obviously the top two, Ryder Kingsford and Brodie Connolly, are so closely matched. But watching them race together on a weekend, like the lines that they could hold, and if it ruts up like it did on the weekend, it'll be awesome, because hopefully the 450s is good as well. But I love watching the 250s because they're so much more energetic, and everyone's revving the bikes, and the style points are up there.
Yeah, yeah, that's completely true. I was camped out on a couple of the jumps for the 250 guys, and they were scrubbing like the life out of it, and it was just good for photos. And then the 450s come out, and they're just as fast, but they're definitely not as they don't sort of style for style's sake. That's for sure.
Yeah, like watching Jed Beaton and Webster ride, like it's so effortless, and like you can barely hear their bikes go, and they hit every rut perfectly. And if any kid wants to watch and emulate someone ride, like I'd be watching those two. But man, those guys in the 250, they are just all out. Like anywhere, like, and not just like the top five, anyone from the Vics, like first through to 20th, they were all wide open, and It was amazing to watch.
Yeah, I definitely had the observation, like watching Jed, Kyle, Maximus Purvis, like watching them come into the ruts in that corner. So where you come back down the hill and you've got the two tabletops, and then that right-hand bend where they were super deep. So they were coming into those, and they were very calculated. You could tell they'd picked the rut. They were very precise. And then, the MX2 and MX3 riders, they were just landing on the second tabletop, and it was just like wide open. And wherever I end up, I'm gonna end up like two completely different approaches, both going in like very, very fast, but just totally different approaches to racing. So it's like you said, I think it's pretty exciting to watch.
It is exciting. That's just in maturity and getting to the age where everyone's riding for so long and at such a high level that you you have the ability to pick the ruts and lines that you want to be in. Whereas the guys that are young and full of, maybe egos and whatever to ride and just be wide open. And like I said, that's why I love watching those guys and the young kids coming through, because I think the sport's in a great spot at the moment.
Yep.
With the amount of talent that's coming through. And like you touched on before, with the amount of riders that are in Vic, like racing this series, like the Vic Championships has been great the first 2 rounds. Like the numbers, I think, have been fairly good. And the caliber of riders has just, like I said, burst through to, mid-pack, and everyone, you couldn't put a blanket over 5 or 6 people because they're that close together.
Yeah. Yep. I know the MX3 class that they've introduced for the Vics this year as a qualifier for the MXGP. But I would love to see that at the Senior Vics each year. One, for the racing, it's so close and there's so little separation between the riders, which makes it fantastic to watch. But secondly, too, I think having those riders at the Victorian and State Championship level, it's the bridge between your juniors and your seniors. And it'll make our own Vic Championship like so much stronger and our own riders so much stronger.
Yeah, well, that wasn't really an option for me when I was, coming through juniors, because it was juniors or seniors until junior lights got introduced a little bit later. But I personally believe the senior days, the track forms up so much differently to how the juniors ride it, because you got obviously 50s, 65s, and they can't prep it as deep. Whereas seniors, it's just like, well, that's what the track is, go and ride it.
Yep.
And as you saw how Traralgon was on the weekend, like it was great. And I don't think you would have seen a junior day form up quite like that. And that sort of experience to see a track be like that, it sets the juniors up for,
success.
Better racing coming in.
Yep.
Yeah, like a transition that's going to be a bit smoother coming into seniors, because you see some of the kids that come into MX2 out of MX3, if they haven't had that experience, they're sort of just chucked to the deep end.
Yes.
And, they're like, unless, some kids that are on programs and they train with the top level guys anyway, but, the kids that aren't as fortunate, that don't have that opportunity, then they come out and they go, oh my God, like there's 300-foot ruts coming into a corner.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. I think when those MX3 kids, reach MX2 and MX1 sort of over the next sort of 3, 4, 5 years, the sport in this country is going to be elevated so much because of the experience that they're able to get like right now.
Oh, exactly. And it all starts from like a grass level, like from the small clubs, like Clea was saying before, and everyone just coming up, and then it gets the MX3, and then they're getting serious, and then they're racing with seniors, and they're getting to watch, Kyle Webster and Jed Beaton on the same day that they're racing, and then they get to try the exact same lines. I think it's amazing, and social media and like your pages that you're showing it helps so much for people being able to watch and see styles. Like you're not watching a DVD or VHS, depending on how old you are, of your favorite riders in America watching. Like you're watching people live that day racing, so it's great.
Yeah,
the sport's in a good spot.
Oh, for sure. Speaking of social media, I believe that you and Clea have got a YouTube channel. Tell me a little bit about that.
It started out as just a bit of fun because we kept running. Like obviously, we love taking videos of riding, and I personally think it's how you improve by watching yourself ride. But we kept running out of phone storage, so we thought, we may as well put like all the best parts of the day into a video, and then you've always got a memory to look back on. So that's what it started out as, and then obviously racing Supercross, and then I kept seeing a bit of a journey go forward, and then now I get to the point where I know I personally love making videos, and I think Clea's in the same boat.
Yeah,
and,
definitely.
Yeah, it's cool. Like we don't do it for recognition or anything, but it's cool to see people that we went to Horsham, and there was like 10, 15 people, like everyone from kids through to like middle-aged blokes come up and go, oh my God, it's good to see you watch your video, and like it's good to meet you.
Yeah. That's so cool.
Yeah, it's nice having those interactions, even with the little kids. Like, they look up to you like your little superstars and stuff like that. They're like, oh, my God, I watch your vlog. When's your next vlog coming out and stuff like that? And it's really nice to see them so excited about, like, the sport and the videos that are coming out, because to us it's just, like, us living our weekends out on the bikes. But to them it's like, oh, my God, it's Friday. They're going to post a vlog today. I'm going to be able to watch it. So it's really cute.
Do you think that, for me, I've sort of got this opinion that social media is sort of the life that you want people to see and think that you're living. But with vlogs, like you actually get to see real life, and I think it's a lot more relatable because you see the good, the bad, you know, a little bit of the ugly as well. Do you think that's why these sorts of channels and videos and vlogs are so popular?
I'd probably say that's a lot to do with it. I think, you know, a lot of people enjoy being able to watch other people's life and like what they're doing, where they're riding, their experiences. They kind of like figuring out their own stuff through watching it. Oh, I had the same problem. Oh, my body position could be improved. Like that's what Kallam's doing, that kind of thing.
Yep.
So, yeah, I definitely think the vlog style makes it more realistic to anyone watching, and they enjoy that humbleness about it.
But the main thing, like we get, as in feedback from other people that are watching, they're like, well, it's nice to watch people that are on our level. Like most of the time you're watching people that have vlogs like the Deegans or the Craigs, like those are the sort of people that most people watch, but they're on the factory level and like you're only seeing the best stuff and the best bikes and like the private facilities. And whereas like we go ride Hastings or, you know, Traralgon, or we're riding a Gippy or at the Vic Championships like we're on the weekend, and it's just like, you know, local tracks and, you know, stuff that you see on the weekend, but it's like, oh, hang on, that we do that. Like we can relate to that.
For sure. So speaking of that, like you've both sort of said that you don't take it too seriously and it's not sort of going to be your career, but what does your midweek look like in terms of the work balance, riding, training? Like how much do you put into the sport midweek when you're not at the track?
Well, for me at the moment, I'm on the couch. But,
or the beanbag.
Or the beanbag.
Yeah.
No, but normally, like, obviously I work 7:30 to 4 and I'm only 15 minutes from home. So, you know, normally I go straight to the gym and do an hour and a half, 2 hours at the gym. And then, you know, whether it's bike work, like if I haven't destroyed my bikes on the weekend, I'll, you know, spend an hour or two editing the blog and then, you know, try to get as much rest as I can. But, yeah, sometimes I don't get a chance to go to the gym because I'm working on my bikes until midnight. But yeah, Clea's is a little bit different because
I work an hour from home like pretty much every day of the week. So when I get home, it's like that 6:30 kind of time, and then my gym's half an hour from where I live. So you know I've got to be real motivated to get to the gym, and sometimes I'm a bit lazier than others. So I just like have to push myself to get to the gym. Otherwise, I know I'll be feeling it after the weekend of riding. But just trying to eat healthy and clean throughout the week too, to make sure you're fueling your body right. Which sometimes I get tempted with the shops being so close at work, but we're all human.
Yeah,
Most
sometimes
definitely.
like obviously I would love to ride midweek, but when it comes to daylight savings, like summertime, like because I'm in Sale, like it's only 15 minutes from the Rosedale Pines. So sometimes me and my mates, we go out there midweek and have a ride in the sand tracks. But other than that, like we don't really get to ride through the week because it's, you know, the work-life balance is not the
Pretty
easiest.
work-dominated.
Yeah. You got to pay for the bike somehow.
Yeah.
No, for sure. So do you have long-term goals in the sport? No, that question is for both of you.
You go first.
I would love to do a national. That's something I would love to tick off my bucket list. I thought about doing it this year, but I just wasn't prepared enough and, you know, wasn't feeling ready on the bike. So I'm planning to next year do at least one of them. And yeah, just I'd love to podium the Sam Masters, Gippy and Vicks, but I'll just see what plays out this year for me on the bike and just enjoy it, really.
Yeah, what about you, Cal?
Me, this year I'd love to get back into Supercross. I was a little bit unsure with my back and obviously having to work and not be crippled, but I would love to, you know, actually make all the mains in Supercross this year and be more top 15. But for motocross, maybe next year, I was talking to Clea about where all the women's rounds are. We'll just go do those Pro Maxes, so one in each state, I think it is, and that'll be a good goal. And that way Clea gets a good experience doing the national scene, and, you know, I'll just do every other round.
Yep.
But I'd love to do all of it. I was planning on doing that this year because I've raced all these tracks that they're on and I love them all. But unfortunately, it didn't work out. But next year, there's always next year.
Oh, for sure. You're both still young. So really appreciate you both coming on for a chat. Before I let you go, is there anyone that you'd like to mention that supports your program or helps you guys out?
I'm going to say Clea first for allowing me to ride, just because she's sitting within arm's shot of me.
And you can't run very well.
Good answer, Callum. Good answer.
No, all she has to do is tap me on the back and I'm out for a few more weeks. For me, obviously other than Clea, like I have Mitch from Triple MX that does me motors, and he does a really good job helping me out getting all my bikes sorted, and Matho from MX 111 coaching and does all these graphics as well. Then I got like Lee from Jones Civil. He helps me out for Supercross and all that sort of stuff. But yeah, mainly it's just myself that funds it. But and Adam built me a Supercross track, Clea's old boy, so he can sling off a dozer if anyone's looking for a track to be built. He's really handy on the dozer.
Multi-talented.
Very multi-talented. Clea didn't mention that before, but he is a very skilled operator.
I always forget that, but he is. Yeah, he's really good. For me, Vision Concepts and Garage 11, they helped me out quite a bit with getting my bike looking very nice. And then Matho helps us out with some gear. And then Dad for helping me with my bike work. And then Kallam for pretty much driving me to every single track that we've gone to in the past 2 years.
Yep.
Oh, yeah, through Matho. Matho got us hooked up with some pretty good discounts through Fox as well. So better shout them out as well because they make some awesome gear.
Yeah.
Unreal, guys. Well, thanks for coming on. It's been it's been a pleasure, and I'll chat to you again soon.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thanks for having us. It's awesome. And what you're doing is great too.
Yeah.
It's great for the sport, and it's really pushing us into a next level.
I appreciate it. Thank you. All right. Well, that wraps up another episode of the Peter Stevens Vic MX show. And thanks to Peter Stevens and Moto Cred for their support of the series and the podcast. Until next time, I've been your host, Pete Wolf. See ya.